Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to round 3 of PSGL Live from the iconic Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, one of the most legendary circuits in motorsport history. We are set for another unpredictable evening of league racing with high-speed, heavy braking zones and the ever-present threats of rain lurking around in this ardent forest around Belgium. This track is pure racing heritage. 7 kilometers of flowing corners, long straights, and famous names like Eau Rouge, Radion, and Blanchimont as well, and Pilon for good measure. Overtaking is definitely possible, but staying consistent over 50% race can be quite challenging as well, with tyre wear, with weather as well. Coming in tonight, one name sits comfortably at the top of the standings. His name is Jeroen Visser. 2 wins from 2, a fastest lap in Austria, and a perfect 33 points gap so far against McLaren. He's looking like one of the best contenders right now. Can he make it 3 for 3, Jeroen Visser? While his teammate Diogo Silva, unfortunately, is not suffering the same fate. He is currently struggling as well this season. But my name is Jamie Morris, and alongside me tonight is my Dutch co-commentator. His name is Milan Langer. Welcome, mate.
Thank you very much, and always great to be back, especially around a circuit like this, one of the most iconic circuits on the calendar, and one of the circuits I've had the pleasure to go to in real life. So always a great track for racing, and as well just ahead of the Belgian Grand Prix IRL this weekend. So great to be back around a circuit like this. So yeah, will we see a 3rd consecutive victory for Jeroen, who is at the moment the man to beat.
He is indeed then, is the man to beat at the top of the standings, is Jeroen Visser. A dominant drive back to the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. It was him and Stefano who were leading 1-2, but Stefano took his tyres way too far in towards that Grand Prix and unfortunately had a punch towards the end of it too, so his strategy was completely blown out of proportion and fell all the way to the back. It was him versus Jeroen back in Austria too. Those two having great battles this season, but unfortunately it will not happen again. Let me just adjust my mic volume for you guys as well, because it is quite low because of the fan in the background. So the fan is turned on, but hopefully you shouldn't hear it. The first one out on the circuit is Lars van der Linden. The Dutchman rounds around the final corner to open up a lap around here in Belgium, 7 kilometers long, as we open the DRS on the main straight, headed down in towards turn 1, braking hard in towards turn 1, down through a second gear, which seems to be the main norm this way in Formula 1, because I think last season a lot of people take it through 3rd gear in corners, but 2nd is the way to go now on this game. Now climbing up towards Eau Rouge and Radion we go. Nicely done there for Lars van der Linden. It is easy to flat out now in these modern day F1 cars. Heading on towards the Keppel Straight, where we might see plenty of overtaking action, as now we head towards Le Camp we go. Climbing through the gears, we go now in towards 4th gear at the top, in towards turn 7, where Fernando Alonso crashed in 2010 when he spun around in the wet conditions. Now we're going down in towards Rivardi, we go in towards 3rd gear, just fed of the throttle, being very patient as well as we flick our way now into No Name. Missed the apex slightly on entry as we head downhill in towards Pilon we go. Remember as well in the last games where people took a very wide line, esports line, where you were half on the grass, half on the AstroTurf, and now we're coming towards the final chicane where I think Nigel Mansell had his crash as well. I think with, was it 87 back in the past? I can't remember exactly what it was. As we exit the final chicane where Antonio Giovinazzi, I think, dipped wheel on the gravel, crashed and took out George Russell along with him back in 2020 as Lars van der Linden then exits Stavolo. I know some people in the past have became a little bit of a cropper in Stavolo as well. It seems like an easy corner, but sometimes in the dirty hot air it is very easy just to lose the car with the dirty air as well, as we head down towards the bus which gave braking hard at 100 meter board. The rear just want to step away, but nicely controlled, nicely done as Lars steps on the loud pedal, as the first lap time on the board is going to be a 41.266 for the Dutchman, and I wonder that is going to be beatable, because I think pole time is going to be a mid 40 or high 40, but Jeroen Visser now replaces him as he goes towards the top of the timing sheets with Lucas in P3. The time for Jeroen is a 40.986. Alice goes up into P2 with a 41.169. And behind him is the Haas, is Polly, who goes up towards the timing sheets with a 40.894 as Bob Pierre goes into P3 in the Red Bull then. So 2 drivers already in the 40s there. Great lap times, ballistic lap times there from the Haas driver, who has had decent results as well in the past 2 races, as Diogo Silva is currently on a flying lap. We've got Mercedes coming towards the line. That's Philip. GVR Philip goes P5 with a 41.2. I think it's his first appearance as well here in F3 this season, so good luck to him. Currently in P6 there, as Luke goes up into P3. So it's the Haas Squad 3, and I do believe as well the Haas scored a podium last time out at the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix, as was great for them, as Mathieu Manga, who goes towards the top of the time machines with a 40.794. Great lap time for him. I'm not quite sure what lap times people set in F2, but I think it was like 40.45, so not too far away. Here comes Diogo Silva as he tackles now the bust of chicane as he exits the final corner with the DRS open. Let's see what the McLaren driver could do. Only P12 for the time being.
Yeah, so surprised to see Mathieu Manga there at the top. The man 8th in the championship, currently on provisional pole position, of course, with the half remaining, the session remaining, and Polimachi in P2. Jeroen in P3 was riding on board with Jeroen on his lap. He made a few minor mistakes, so I know he has some time up his sleeve, so for the final few runs. So I know he can go faster, but I'm sure drivers around him will be able to do that as well. But at the moment, it's the Aston Martin out in front by exactly 1/10 of a second towards the Haas in P2. So Haas looking pretty good at P2 and P4. Looking for some good points tonight as well, but look how close it is. The top 5 just 2/10 separated, all of them after these first runs. So everyone out early on track. Of course, it's the longest track on the calendar, so you want to get out as soon as possible if you want to get 3 runs in. So that's all these drivers are doing right now. So yeah, great lap by the Aston Martin. It's an Aston Martin sandwich right now with his teammate down in P4. The entire field spread within 1 second right now.
Indeed it is, as Amos Devils is currently in P14, as you said, but he spins the car as well, going in towards the bust-up chicane. He's run out of fuel and he's beached potentially, but he gets the car going once again. Was he taken up on action with the oncoming car? I'm not quite sure. So he's safely back in the pit lane. So like you said, that's the first lap times done and dusted then already. A long circuit like Spa, you can't afford to make any mistakes whatsoever. It is so frustrating. So you having to push the boundaries of the track, and very easy to make a mistake around here. 1 foot wrong, and it's huge consequences as well. Jeroen Visser has barely had any practice, and he's currently sat at P3 with a 40.9. So that is some good pace despite having no practice. So I wonder what he could do in the Grand Prix and on his second lap time. But Batia is currently on pole in the Aston Martin as well. Remember back in 2009 Belgium Grand Prix, I think a Force India took pole of Giancarlo Fisichella, but of course the Force India didn't really have the pace to beat Kimi Raikkonen, although the Ferrari wasn't quite great in that year too. Kimi Raikkonen still took the victory, his 4th and final victory in Spa, as he usually is called the King of Spa, as Fisichella finished in 2nd place, but he didn't do well in the next race in Monza because he got replaced, as he went to Ferrari actually to replace Luca Badera as well, who made his debut here in the Belgian Grand Prix or the legs before. But we've got some cars now coming out on the circuit, as the first one on the circuit is, I think, an RP driver of Lucas in P11 then in the Alpine so far. Let's see how he does. Currently finished in P5 at the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix as well. Another driver who looks very strong as well. Let's see how he does. I think he's a very consistent driver, in my opinion, is Lucas. I think he still needs to show what he could do because he's got a lot of potential, but has just not had the pace to be up there so far. So let's see then what the RP driver has in store for us. The championship started as well to read you them out. I'm going to get it up right now. So it's Jeroen who's leading with 33 points, and he's 20 points ahead of Luke in the Haas in P2. Stefano's P3, he is a reserve driver. He's on 12 points. Behind him is Wards. Wards currently in P4 the championship with 11 points. Same with Stefano and Lucas in P5. Lucas P5 in the Alpine with 11 points. Mustache, who is not here tonight, is 6th in Mercedes with 10 points. Bob Pierre with 10 points in 7th. Bianchi with 10 points in 8th. IRT Nick, 9th place. He's not here tonight, but he's got 8 points. And Mattia Manga, 10th place as well for the Aston Martin team. As Aston Martin's not doing well so far this season, only 11 points for them, as Devils is currently outside the top 10. Lars van der Linden has only scored 1 point as well this season. I think his best race came at the Austrian Grand Prix, when he looked like he was on course trying to take a podium, but he pitted too late and rejoined in a whole heap of traffic, and therefore couldn't get up there and try and tackle the people on the podium, as it was the top 3 who were left alone: Mustache, Stefano and Jeroen, I believe it was, but he couldn't quite compete as he was stuck behind those guys as well, trying to fight them. But these guys are on their second run, so Lucas, Lars van der Linden and Jeroen Visser all currently on their second runs, as we're watching the Alpine man of Lucas with the DRS wide open. Speeds about 340 kilometers an hour. That's a 10th, 3/4 of a I think it's a 10th and a bit up in the first sector there is Lucas. So Decent lap time already in the first sector as we climb towards the top of the hill, the highest part of the track before we dip down in towards the forge, I think it is, in third gear. Patiently get back on the throttle. Now we head over towards this left-hander, flick it in. I think it's just a lift off there. No need to brake in towards that corner. And let's see then how we tackle P1. Is it flat out through here? Speed as we get back on the power once again. ERS deployed there to try and power his way out of P1 as we make our way now in towards the final chicane. I do find this one to be a little bit difficult in my opinion. It's very easy to dip a wheel on the gravel there, lose traction. I just find that particular part of the racetrack difficult in general, but look at him, 5/10 up in this middle sector. This is going to put him possibly inside the 40s. Can he find more time? Let's see then. This lap time is shaping up to be a good one, but can he be spectacular as he's running out on battery there, as you can see on the MFD as we head down towards the breaker zone. It's a very heavy breaker zone. This one is so easy to mess up as well. You arrive there at great speed. The tyres are hot as well. The pressure is high as the DRS is enabled as we stamp on the loud pedal. Lucas goes up into P2, and that is a mighty lap time there as well, as Polimachi is currently on his flying lap in the Haas then. So let's see how he does. He's up in the middle sector by a few tenths of a second, and I think you have seen something.
Yeah, Jeroen was getting impeded a little bit there by the Sauber, but he does go quickest regardless with a 140.7. But it was, I think it was Wards there starting his flying lap, was just in the way there of the McLaren a little bit, but unfortunately it hasn't affected him too much as Polimachi goes second. Look at those gaps, the top four within 3/4 of a tenth then, as the other Alpine of Alès goes P5, just shy of 2/10 behind, and then Philip in the Mercedes, bit of a moment on the entry of the bus stop chicane, currently sat down in P8. Can he find a bit of an improvement as he crosses the line? He improves by 0.003 of a second, so that's not going to get in position. What about Luke though in P7? He improves up to the front row, 0.18 of a second. It's getting even closer between the top five. It's absolutely incredible scene so far in this qualifying session as Wessel in the Ferrari makes his way down into the braking zone of that final chicane, currently set just outside the top 10. You can push a little bit, he can get up to P8, and that is exactly what he does with a 2/10 improvement. And then we see Devil in the other Aston Martin. What can he do? He crosses the line and he stays in P14 despite a 2/10 improvement. He's unable to gain a position. Then the McLaren of Diogo Silva down in P12. He's up by only 100th of a second going into the final sector. Goes a little bit deep there on the braking of that final chicane. Can he find some time on the exit? I wonder. As he crosses the line, he stays in P12. And what about Mattia Manga, who was on provisional pole position? He's going into the pit lane, so he will not improve on his second lap, which means he still has one lap remaining at the end of this session. And Wards then in the Sauber, he's up by 3.5 tenths through the second sector, so looking to be a good improvement for the Sauber driver. Let's see what he finds coming out of the final corner. He will cross the line, go up to P7, the top 8 within 2/10 of each other. It's incredibly close so far in this qualifying session.
Yeah, look at the gaps there, mighty close between everybody as well. From P1 down to P5, separated by 3/4 of a tenth as well. That's how compact this grid is, well, super tight. And if it means this is going to be the qualifying results, it means that we're in for a good race as well, with all the drivers bunched up together as well with a massive DRS train. Both Hasses are looking good so far, of Luke in P2 and also Polimachi in P3 as well, because Lucas in P2 in the championship, DNF in the first race of the Austrian Grand Prix. I believe he left the session and he couldn't get back in. I don't remember him crashing out. I think it was Pepine who was the one that crashed out back at the Austrian Grand Prix and caused the safety car as well, as Watts has a massive flicker oversteer. But it doesn't matter because he is headed back in the pit lane as he's currently done his second run as well. So the second runs have been completed in this qualifying session then, as it's Jeroen who takes dibs in first place on his second attempt with a 40.755 as well. 1800s back is Luke. Polimachi 2300s back as well, and not much separating the guys at the top of the field. So a bit of a lull here in this qualifying, just a bit of downtime before we have the quiet before the storm around here at the Belgian Grand Prix. Of course, the weather can be looking around in the corner, in the air as well at the Belgian Grand Prix. The weather around here is quite unpredictable. We've had many wet qualifying sessions, many wet races as well. Remember 1998 with that massive pile-up going down in towards Turn 1, and that's caused a red flag for obvious reasons as well. And in qualifying before as well, I think in 2024, did we have a wet qualifying session where Verstappen took pole? Then he had to start the back of the field because he had an engine penalty, I think, or power unit problem. not a problem, but power unit penalty. And of course, he's done it in previous occasions as well. Back in 2022, when he started, I think, outside the top 10, still won the Belgian Grand Prix as well. And in 2023, when he took an edgy penalty and still went on to win the Grand Prix. Hopefully, my facts are right as well, because I don't really remember recent years in F1, but I do remember the past a long time ago as well. Then, of course, that famous 2021 race, the 3-lap race. And actually, we've got somebody in here who was actually there for the Belgian Grand Prix in that year and only witnessed 3 laps.
Yeah, it was a great experience, I must say. For my second ever Formula 1 race, I was going to the Belgian Grand Prix. Very excited, and then upon race day, absolutely pouring it down. Arrived at the track at 10 a.m. in the morning and stayed there until like 6:30 a.m. in the afternoon and didn't see a single lap of racing. Only 3 behind the safety car. Yeah, it was a great experience, to put it like that. But I did go to the Belgian Grand Prix back in 2024, and that was a great race, of course. So at least got something back for that. But all in all, it wasn't the best to go through that race specifically, but I have seen better ones. But we are preparing ourselves for these final runs of qualifying. Just over 2 minutes remaining, and a lot of drivers still in the pit lane, so they're leaving it quite late. So for quite a quick outlap then, but I assume everyone will go out on track. The first one out on track is Ales down in P8. So they will be the first one to start their final laps, as slowly everyone is making their way out of the pit lane to prepare for the final laps. And Ales is taking that esports line you mentioned earlier there, with getting one wheel there on the grass on that blue-green pit there, just outside the track there. But I'm not sure if it's any quicker on this year's games. I know it was a few years ago, but I don't think it's quite the meta on F1 25, is it?
No, it's not in this game especially as well. But every single driver out there, all 14 drivers out there currently on the circuit, with the Aston Martin at the back of AMS Devil there as well. So like I said, Ales will be the first one to start a flying lap, and let's see how he does then around this racetrack. 70 kilometers. Every single driver though has got out there with only 1 minute left on the track. So if they make a mistake on this flying lap, it is over. That's how the drivers have, how the drivers have the confidence as well around here to do only 1 lap, because some people come out the pit lane relatively early, because if they make a mistake on their first lap, that means they've got the second lap to try and do something about it. Now, on a flying lap for the final time with the RP driver as we head down in towards turn 1 we go. Let's see how he takes it down through second gear, hits the apex very nicely, squares the car off, gets back in the throttle. No signs of major wheel spin through there. A very important part of the track to brake traction, as we all know. Eau Rouge, radio on important too. DRS enabled on the straight. There's a car park going down in towards the final sector that hopefully nobody will pick up a 5-place grid penalty. And now we're coming towards the end of the first sector. Let's see if it's up or down. Up only by 100th of a second there. But in this technical twisty part of the racetrack, in this middle sector, the longest middle sector as well, because it goes out from before the before Stavolo as well, ends before Stavolo. So it's a very, very long middle sector, one of the longest middle sectors, I think, on any racetrack, if I could dare say, without doing any research on that one. And now leans on the curb on the outside of no name. I do believe it has a name, but I haven't researched it, unfortunately, so my bad on that one. But here we go, out of P1 there, very nice approach in there as well, carry the speed all the way through, leans on the curb, chucks the car in, flicks left and right very nicely through the final chicane we go. And now we're coming towards turn 14, I believe it is. This right-hander we go. Just want to approach it very nicely. 1/10 up in the middle sector there for Ales as well, as now we're coming towards Stavolo, flat out through there, as Nick is supporting his fellow teammate and countryman of Bobpierre in P6. Nick is currently on vacation, hence why he's not racing tonight as well, because it's a very strong lineup between both their boards, but they haven't quite sorted their season out the way they would have wanted. Here comes the RP driver towards the final score. Let's see what Ales can go or do as he makes his way towards the line. It's going to be a 40.7. And he pops the RP into P2. What a great lap time. I'm seeing yellow flags in the first sector. So, indication to me that somebody has made a mistake there. Is it McLaren, Alpine, Aston Martin? Who knows? But somebody in that sector. Slow it down as Devils has crashed at the exit. As Giroud, look at 6,000 per second there. He's off. Is Ales. Not much in it between those two. Vettel out of the final corner. Massive wheel spin. He makes his way towards the line. He goes up into P9 there, improves by 9/10 of a second. Where are the heavy hitters? We've got Williams coming towards the line. Is that Lars? Lars goes towards the top of the timer sheet there. What a great lap time. And Luke replaced him. What a lap time. A 40.481. It's a Haas one too as well. Great qualifying for both Haas's. But we're waiting. Giroud Visser as Bobpierre goes up into P2 in the Red Bull. Great qualifying from him. Here comes Giroud towards the line. Can he take pole away? He can't. separated by 33 hundredths of a second there. Mighty close qualifying. So is anybody else going to steal the limelight? Let's see then. Is there any more surprises left to come in this qualifying session? Here comes Mattia Manga as the Sauber breaks his wing. Here comes the Aston Martin up into P7, and the last but not least is Lucas, who invalidated there, unfortunately, in the first sector. But Luke is on pole, second pole in a row, like it was back in Saudi Arabia. This man took pole once again, and his closest rival of Juventus in the championship is in P2 as well. So those two are close and locked in for the Belgian Grand Prix. What a qualifying session, though. But congratulations towards the Haas. Can he convert it? Can he break Jeroen Visser's winning streak there and try and get his first of the season? Great qualifying from Haas as well. Jeroen and Bompier P2 and P3. Lars van der Linden in P5. Great qualifying for him ahead of the Italian of Alas and Mattia Manga. Lucas in P8 ahead of Wards. Philip in P10 ahead of Vessel. Napoli P12. Diogo Silva. AMS Devils will start down in P14. But that was a mega qualifying session. First dibs goes towards the Haas in qualifying. But let's see, can Jeroen make it 3 for 3? Can the Haas get his first win of the season and bring that gap down in the championship? All the questions will be answered shortly when the race starts.
Yeah, incredible that by Luke to take pole position, and once again very close, and that around the longest track on the calendar. To see gaps so close, it's quite fascinating to see. But now, prepare ourselves for the race. 22 laps only, I think, for the Belgian Grand Prix. The shortest amount of laps out of any race on the calendar. It's a bit overcast, but no rain inside, I think, just for now. But Luke will start on pole position. He has the inside line going into turn 1. But the question is, do you really want to lead coming out of turn 1? Because then you have that long run up Radion and Eau Rouge, and then down the Camel Straight into the braking zone of the Le Comte chicane. So ideally, you want to be the second or third car at the exit of turn 1, and then get the slipstream and get the job done at the end of the Camel Straight on the opening lap, of course, to expect some DRS trains around this track as well. But I do wonder what the strategy is like. I assume it's a pretty normal one-stop around there, but I haven't seen if the tire wear is that detrimental around this track. But I do see that Jeroen is at the moment starting on the hard, so could we see some difference in strategies? Either way, it's going to be an exciting race for sure.
Indeed it is. I saw a lot of people in the F2 race start on the mini compound tyre. Only one of them started on the hards then, so I'm not quite sure how that race transpired for them, considering I couldn't watch it all because I had to commentate for this one as well. So interesting to see that Jeroen Visser has gone for the hard compound tyre, going for the longest stint as well on the hards to reduce the deficit on the mediums. But the undercut is quite powerful around here as well. Chance for a safety car, in my opinion, well, it is quite high, but recently there is a lot of runoff area as well. You don't really see... I've watched a lot of races where safety cars haven't really came out in the past before because a lot of drivers have been sensible, but you can still get those old safety cars now and then. It depends when the safety car appears as well. It's very easy out of Le Comte to crash as well, and also Eau Rouge and Radion, Stavelo's on the place, Pimwan's on the place, the final chicane as well. But we'll see then what happens in this race. There is no formation lap around here. There's no lobby restart like there was last season as well, because in qualifying we had ghosting on, and then we had to turn off for the race as well. But we're just waiting for the lights then for the Belgian Grand Prix, which is this weekend in Formula 1. It returns back after a 3-week break as well. Who will take the victory? It was Lewis Hamilton who took his last victory in F1 at the Belgian Grand Prix for Mercedes. And I wonder as well what's going to happen this weekend in Belgium. And of course, there'll be a lot of talks regarding Christian Horner as well when F1 comes back to the paddock with the microphones and the media and the pen. It's going to be a very interesting talk as well to see what's going to go on. Lauren Mekies has now replaced Horner in the team principal as well. So a lot of drama as well after the British GP when Hulkenberg took his first ever Formula 1 podium as well around here at the Belgian Grand Prix. He finished 4th in Spa in 2012 after overtaking Michael Schumacher, and I believe that was his best finish as well in F1 is before that happened as well. So yeah, Hulkenberg's best finish was 4th place when he got past Schumacher. And of course what happened down towards turn 1 in 2012, carnage, chaos, disaster erupted when Romain Grosjean and Lewis Hamilton made contact, and Grosjean got a race ban. Jerome D'Ambrosio took over Grosjean's seat in Monza. Kobayashi, Perez, Maldonado, Alonso, Hamilton and also Maldonado were out on the first lap of the Grand Prix, causing that massive pile-up as well. Back in 2018, Hulkenberg smashed into the back of Fernando Alonso, sent him over the top of Charles Leclerc. And it also illustrates and portrays how important as well the halo is in Formula 1. Nobody really talks about the halo, but only positives about it as well. So no more criticism from the halo haters, but let's see then what happens here in Belgium. It has the pole of Luke. And let's see, can he convert it? Like you said, you don't really want to start a pole position around here. As Lewis Hamilton back in 2018, when he got overtaken by Sebastian Vettel, and almost the 2 Force Indies as well by Perez and Ocon, because both Force Indies went into administration back in 2018, I remember. And they lost a lot of points as well that season. I think they had all their points taken away, so they had to do it all again in the second half of the season. Correct me if I'm wrong. But of course, for Force India's first pole was back in 2009, and now they're currently Aston Martin. Aston Martin not really doing well this season or last season, but hopefully in 2026 it all changes around as well. But we're still waiting for the drivers, Milan.
Yeah, indeed we are, but I think we're about to go ready anytime soon now. And at the moment I see 2 drivers who are starting on the hards. It's Nappy down in P12 and still Jeroen in second place in the McLaren. So interesting gamble there by the championship leader with everyone else around him starting on the medium compound. So we'll see how that is going to work out for him. So it's going to be a different race for him, as he will continue on much longer than the rest of the field, who will be in the DRS train. As I say that, he just switched over to the medium. So looks like the majority will start on the mediums, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 drivers. But here we go then for the Belgian Grand Prix.
The Belgian Grand Prix is about to get underway very shortly. Jeroen made a late switch to the medium compound tyres, and the lights are away then. We go racing. It's foot to the floor here at the Belgian Grand Prix, and so far a great start from the Haas as we dive in towards turn 1, a heavy breaker. So both Alpines make contact there of Lucas and Alistair. Sauber in the background goes off the track, and Jeroen is well in P2, poised to overtake the Haas man. He's right behind. He is tucked in the slipstream. RT Bompia is right behind Jeroen as they climb towards Eau Rouge and Radion. They're all in the slipstream, but here comes McLaren, here comes the Red Bull. Could it be a 3 abreast? Actually, Bompia has nowhere to go as we see Jeroen and Luke side by side in towards the breakers. So we go last on the brakes is the Haas man there as he maintains the lead of the Grand Prix. But look at the other Haas of Panimachi, who got a good launch out of Lacombe and almost over to Bompia in towards 4 and 5 as the Alpine there ducking and diving to see where he can go, as the other Alpine making up for lost ground there. He's going side by side with, I think, the Aston Martin driver or the Sauber driver Awards as we go through now in towards No Name, coming down in towards P1. A clean start so far from every single driver, but however Luke remains in the lead of the Grand Prix despite giving an open toe towards everybody behind him, including Bob P. Jeroen. I thought for 1 second they were going to go 3 abreast like Ricardo, Coulthard and Schumacher as well. But it's so far Luke who leads the Grand Prix, maintains it. So great start for him as well, as it's very important to lead the Grand Prix. And so far all 40 drivers made their way through, and it is the Haas man who leads.
Yeah, great start by Luke. Great defensive driving to maintain that leading position. And has already built a gap of around 0.6 of a second. But we all made it through the opening lap unscathed without any major troubles. Apart from Nappy getting forced out wide a little bit out of turn 1 into the gravel. And while fighting another car. But we go on to lap number 2. There's a move going into the chicane. Almost 3 wide there with Alice, Devil and Ward in the final bus-stop chicane. Alice now fighting it up with the Aston Martin, who ran out of ERS, just going to the line there. But DRS has been able to have a half a look at the inside of the Alpine, but has to stay behind for now, with Philip and Wessel close behind as well. The Ferrari looking to try and find a way past the Mercedes on the run towards Eau Rouge, but DRS has been enabled. Luke leads by 0.4 of a second, and I do wonder if Jeroen is going to try and go for the move already, or if he's just going to stay behind for now in this opening stage. Not far too much, as Boomje is closing that gap as well, as they're incredibly close to each other. The top 3 right now. Then it's Polimachi in P4, Lars Linde in P5 ahead of Lucas, Mathieu Manga, Warts, Ellis and Devils just outside just inside the top 10, with Philip and Wessel following closely behind. The Ferrari still trying to find a way past the Mercedes, but unable to do so right now as we go into the braking zone of the Purcell hairpin, with Diogo Silva following in P13 and Nappel still in this train despite being on the hards. That's all he needs to do right now in this stint, is just stay with the rest of the field and then get your advantage later on in this race.
Yeah, he needs to go along on those hardcore power tyres. The only driver in the field, like it was in F2, to start on the hardcore power tyres. Not quite sure how the strategy played off, but hopefully for his sake, it plays off well for him in P14. His teammate Wards is up into P8, but I think the biggest loser of that was Alice. I've seen him drop down the order as well from P6 down to P9. Both Alpines went side by side down in towards turn 1. They bang wheels, and I think that caused Alice to go out wide and give the place towards Mathieu Manga and Woods Sport. Despite a massive slipstream going down in towards the com, nobody overtook. The top 5 remains the same. Lucas up into P6 and Devils from P14 is up into P10. So Devils is the biggest gainer there in the Aston Martin in 10th place. But on the third lap of the Grand Prix, and Bompier, as the rest of the drivers then sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix, which goes down towards in P8 there, all in that DRS train as well, as they look to put the pressure on Luke as well. But I wonder how the guys in the midfield play this. I wonder what Bompier will do, because he doesn't really stuck there. He wants to try and move himself to the order. He tried to go for the overtake of Jeroen in the last lap as well, but just by his time, a bit of a gap between P3 and P4, plenty of match in P4 as well, so losing touch towards the top 3. If this top 3 break away, that's going to be trouble for the Haas. But here comes Jeroen Visser and Bompier. Will he strike? He will, as we head down in towards the Calm. But the Haas breaks later, locks up, tries to go around the outside. Here comes Bompier, but not enough space given around the outside there. Bompier has to remain in P3 for the time being. I thought Luke would have got swamped by the guys behind. Jeroen got past it, but Luke was able to manage to stay in P2 there, just behind the outside line to converge it into the inside line, and Bompier therefore could not get past and still stuck in P3 there. So Luke and Jeroen change places like it was with Stefano as well, because Stefano and Jeroen were controlling the Austrian Grand Prix and Jeddah too. They kept trading places, whilst third place downwards couldn't overtake as well. So could we see a case of that where first and second just continuously to swap places? And Jeroen went a bit deep in the first part of the final chicane, but didn't get affected much by it as well. But this is a long DRS straight from out of Rouge Radio towards the Com as well. So slipstream DRS is powerful as well. And let's see then what the drivers will do on the next lap on lap 4 out of 22. A long ways to go. Everybody on the midi-cup power tyres. Everybody's stuck in this DRS train, as you expect. Dirtier will be effective as well in this Grand Prix. But strategy will come into play as well. It's just a long waited patient game, like it is in every single race. Drivers just waiting for the right moment to pick their time, to decide when to overtake as well, try and manage the battery, the tyres in this DRS train as well, and see what happens for their race. But it is so frustrating just being stuck in that DRS train. I don't think we'll ever get solved as well, this DRS train problem in every single game that we have across the games we have. But of course, in 2026, DRS will be gone as well. So I wonder how that will affect the racing in the next game. But on this game we go. Over Rouge Radio, the DRS enabled once again, as Bompier's got the rear wing open in that Red Bull. And let's see, can he get himself closer towards Luke? He can't, because Luke has the DRS at the back of Jeroen, so can't make the pressure. But the Sauber is close. That's Wards versus Mattia Manga, and they go side by side as the Sauber goes up into P7. Then nice move, he puts himself up a place, and Mattia Manga falls down into P8 there.
Yeah, good move there by Ward, getting past the Aston Martin, another position gate. Now can try and chase after the Alpine, just ahead of Lucas in P6. But Jeroen in the lead of the race, our championship leader, found his way past Luke. But they're all still in this DRS train. The entire top 14 covered within a few tenths of each other every single time. So two Haas drivers in P2 and P4. So the top 3 unable to break away from the rest of the field, as Polymatch is able to stay quite close to Boems as well, especially through this chicane down to 3/10 of a second, with Marcel Linden just in P5. And then it's Lucas and Ward in P7, ahead of Mattia Manga P8, with his teammate in P10 and the Alpine of Alice in between, just inside the top 10. But as we are at the end of lap number 4, 7/10 in between the two race leaders, Jeroen and Luke, fighting out once again. Jeroen looking very comfortable so far in this race, but he knows it's going to be later on in this race with the strategy, with the pit stop as well, where the gaps may start to form in this field. But we will go on to lap 5 of 22. Still 18 laps to go, and Jeroen is in the lead by 7.5 tenths towards Luke, and Bompje quite close behind the Haas. Is he going to try and find a way past Luke on the next straight? Goes a little bit deep, but doesn't compromise the exit too much there, with Polymatch following closely behind. But the gap is 7 tenths between Jeroen and Luke, so I think Jeroen is quite safe then going on to the Camel Straight. But Bompje is looking quite close then to the Haas. Will he deploy some battery to try and get closer right now? But he won't. He's going to stay behind for now, so no moves being made inside the top 5 as we run down these P7, 8, 9 and 10, all still in this DRS train. Yeah, it's a common sight on this game and on past games as well, where you just see a long train of cars following each other but not able to make any moves.
Yeah, indeed it is as well. Just a common theme across the F1 games there, where everybody's just stationary, nobody's moving forwards there. Might see a change or two in the midfield, but it's going to be like this until the pit stops start happening, because that's when people decide to undercut the guys in the midfield as well. The guys stuck further down in this DRS train will be thinking about doing a pit stop much later, not obviously now because it's way too early to think about any pit stops to go on the hardcore power tyres, but later on in the Grand Prix they'll think about doing the undercut, pit earlier than your rivals, and drive you to your absolute best on your out lap, and hope and pray you get that undercut on the rest of your rivals as well. As we see Jeroen Visser, who tends to do very good at stretching gaps as well, does the Dutchman of Jeroen there, as Polymachi is right behind Bob here as well. So I wonder if Bob here made a slight mistake somewhere in the middle sector, which allowed Polymachi to get closer towards the ILT man and make it a double Haas podium as well, because Haas recently have been looking very strong, as we see Luke right behind as well. The Italians putting pressure on the Dutchmans there as well. The top 4 Italians and Dutchmans, with Lucas, with Lars van der Linden, the P5, being a Dutchman too, as we head down in towards turn 1, the heavy breaker zone. Then this DRS zone is all about getting closer as well, and turn 1 is all about getting the exit and run you need. It's so important to get a good exit out there too. And last is overtaking Devil. He's up into P9, or defending from Devil, as those two are close in combat with each other, but it looks like Alice got the advantage so far. Are we going to see any changes? Lars van der Linden's lost the DRS towards Polymachi. That could be significant in this Grand Prix, but Bob Peter is in a Haas sandwich, trying to overtake one Haas, but defending from the other two. So Bob Peter's got to watch in his rear view mirrors to see what the Haas boys do, because they're looking in a really good spot so far. P2 and in P4 as well, trying to play some games with the other teams as well, as Lars van der Linden is under massive pressure as well. The gap is 1.1 there, so he becomes effectively the second train in the field then, so he's a second away. Maybe utilise this little sector, because the guys ahead are stuck in dirty air. Lars van der Linden has got a bit of clean there to try and edge himself forwards towards the top 4. You cannot, and I mean cannot, lose the DRS around here, because you just be gone. That's it. Goodbye for them, as the top 4 just pull away and you're just stuck behind in no man's land. How to think behind you as well. But he's just got himself in the periphery of the DRS range. Not yet. He's still dangerously outside there as well. The gap's like 1 second, so he needs to find a bit more pace as well, try and get himself closer towards the top 4. But talking about closer, Polymachi is actually closer towards Bobbio, so the Haasman in P4 has got some blistering pace as well there in 4th place. But although he has used a lot of battery, so are these guys ahead as well. All these guys use a battery, but the top 2 as well looking sustainable on their battery in 1st and 2nd, managing really well. They're smart drivers, high talent. Oh, Lars van der Linden goes deep in towards the bus stop chicane, so it might cost him a few tenths there, which it has. He's dropped by the DRS range. Lars van der Linden there, that small mistake, unfortunately has cost him the DRS as we head down towards turn 1. Look at the pressure Bob Pierre has got to deal with, trying to overtake one Haas, keep another one at bay for the time being then. So could we see some changes as we climb towards Eau Rouge and Radion once again? The steep hill, it's even steeper than you think as well. I've never been here before, but it is very, very steep, as Milan Langer knows. In the parts of Bob Pierre with the DRS wide open. I think at this stage, Bob Pierre needs to think about his harvested battery. He's running quite low as well, so can't give the Haas any opportunities to come closer, as Wards is right behind Lucas, but can't go for a move just yet.
Yeah, indeed. So Johan in the lead, still ahead of Luke and Bobje, and Lars van der Linden did a good job to close that gap back down. He was a bit optimistic into that final chicane, trying to take some risk to close that gap down to under a second. He overshot it a little bit and he got outside a second, but due to Polymachi and Bobje being quite close for turn 1, which allowed the Williams driver to get back within DRS range. But now it's Devils in P10 who has lost the connection towards the top 9, so gaps are starting to form a little bit at the end of this first stint. Of course, you have drivers who are able to manage their tires a little bit better than others and have the slight tire advantage, and which starts to form some gaps through this field. But at the front, it remains unchanged, as it has been so far in this race. As we're on lap 7, I do wonder when the first pit stops will start to come from mediums to hards, as Napel in the Sauber is going alongside Diogo Silva, coming out of Stavolo, and he is going to be able to get past the McLaren. He's up at the P13, so his hards are definitely going to be quicker than the mediums right now after 6-7 laps of racing. So he will close that gap towards the whistle as well. So Apple will want to move forward, as the first driver pulling into the pit lane is Lucas in the Alpine, and it's not the only one. Devils in the Aston Martin as well. So going on to lap 8, both the Alpine and the Aston Martin into the pit lane from mediums to the hards towards the end, and try and go for the undercut. Diogo Silva in the McLaren goes in as well to swap around his mediums for a set of hards. So early pit stops for these guys, and I reckon that is gonna cause a chain reaction with cars at front pitting as well, to try and cover them off and not fall in the undercut trap there. So Jeroen in the lead. I do wonder, will he come into the pit lane into this lap, or will he continue on for a few more laps and have the tire advantage at the end of the race? With Luke following close behind us. Wessel gets past the Mercedes of Philip, so Wessel up to P9, and Napple is very close behind these two as well with the tire advantage, but want to get past as soon as possible because Wessel has lost the connection towards LS after Devils and Lucas pitted. That's around 2 seconds between P8 and P9. So Wessel now having a bit of a train forming behind him with the top 8 still within DRS range of each other. But Lars van der Linde once again threatening to drop outside that DRS window, has to use some ERS to close that gap back down to under a second towards Polymacci and Boompje P3 and P4. As it's around 9 tenths, once again around 1 second, so he has to really push these stars to get close as he is starting to show some signs of tire wear. But he's just back inside that DRS window, so he's going to be able to stay close. And are we going to see any of these leading cars putting into the pit lane at the end of lap 8? Oh, and going on to 9. So 14 laps to go. It's going to be 14 laps on those hards, 15 for the ones who have just pitted on the previous lap. But Jeroen is going to stay out, and so is Luke with Boompje and Polymacci both into the pit lane from P3 and P4. They are going to go for the undercut as Bartz, Mattia Manga and Aless all pull into the pit lane as well, and so does Philip. But as Aless picks up a 10-second time penalty, unfortunately, for speeding in the pit lane. But this is going to be interesting for Boompje and Polymacci to try and go for the undercut to the two cars in front in the leading two positions.
This phase of the race is now swifting and changing around now with the guys pitting onto the set of the hardcore power tyres. Napple has started the hardcore power tyres, so he is going to go for that longer stint. As we see then, the net leaders out of the pit lane with Lucas getting the undercut. He's up into P6 there despite not being in this train, and Napple is ahead of Wessel there. He's on the hardcore power tyres, expecting to overtake there. His hardcore power tyre should theoretically come into play against his medium, which you can see the grain as well, evidently, and visually on Vessel's tyres. So that tells you the power of the undercut. So Jeroen and Luke are going to fall into the clutches, I dare say, behind possibly Mattia Manga, Devils as well, because the undercut is so powerful around here. So Boompje almost gets stuck at the curb as well, scrapes the curb along the exit of Lacombe towards turn 7 as we head down in towards 8, now coming through. No, there we go, it's swinging in towards this left-hander. But yes, it's going to be very interesting to see where Jeroen Luke and Lars van der Linden all fit into this equation. You can see Boompje there pushing really hard as well. The gap is 1.3 seconds. He's trying to get himself ahead of Jeroen and Luke when those guys pit, and also in the DRS range of Lucas as well. To get himself a DRS range Lucas and protect himself against Polymacci. You can see him using every single part of the racetrack. He just kept the pit lane, trying to open the hardcore power tyres and trying to get that gap under a second as well. Lucas' undercut has worked. He's put himself into the net leader Grand Prix in P6, but how much he has to pay the price towards in the Grand Prix as well after pitting quite early. Jeroen, Luke and Lars all in the pit lane to get rid of those hardcore power tyres, and Napple takes the lead of the Grand Prix, the only driver to start on the hards, and there's 12 laps left to go towards the Grand Prix. So they switch over to the hardcore power tyres. Lucas has set the first lap of the Grand Prix. You can see him on the left hand side, or yes you can, on the left hand side there, drivers coming through. Lucas has now taken the effective lead of the Grand Prix, and here comes the rest of the field. Boompje is in P3, here comes Polymacci up into P4, so Jeroen and Luke have fallen into P5 and P7, but they do have the freshest tyres out of the lot, so it could pay him dividends later on in the Grand Prix. But can Luke pounce on boards immediately and try and stick with Jeroen as the DRS is wide open there? Is Polymacci closer towards Boompje as we head down in towards Lacombe? No, it's not. No overtakes headed down in towards this chicane. But interestingly, Boompje hasn't got the gap down under a second there, so Lucas has stretched his advantage. He's up into P2, a man who was formerly in F2 last season, now into F3. The gap is 1.5 seconds there, so despite 2 laps, Boompje hasn't really got himself under the DRS range, and he becomes now the effective leader who has the DRS, and the guys at the back of him or behind him as well with that DRS. Even and Luke in the fresher tyres out of the slot in P5 and P7. This is going to be a very interesting race now to see how it all shapes up as well, with cars at different places, with people pitted at different tyres. But evidently you can see that the undercut has worked powerfully there for Lucas in P2. Let's see how his race goes. But Boompje is closing that gap then, so Lucas trying to break the DRS and pull away and try and do his own race, but Boompje is closing that gap down as well. He does have a 1 lap difference, but makes a small impact as well on this game. He's almost been in DRS range. Is Bob here, P3. They're just a few thousand shy or hundred shy away from Lucas's DRS there. Can he get it on the final corner in towards the straight? Let's see then. You can see him flashing there, trying to save the battery as Polymachi is right behind him. Bob here, well, messed up his approach going down in towards the bust of chicane. Outbroke himself slightly there, which allowed Polymachi to be right to the back of him as well, heading in towards the final corner, on towards the straight. As we head down in towards turn 1, you can see that Bob Pierre just exactly a second away, or just almost in DRS range there as well against Lucas. The gap's going down rapidly as well against Napol as we make our way towards Eau Rouge and Radion again. Bob Pierre does get himself the DRS there, so he can get himself closer because he is running low on DRS there. So Bob Pierre, we're thankful that he has the DRS, because running low on battery, which means the guys behind will pulse on him. There he is with the battery and the DRS. You can see that he's trying to save the battery as well as we head down towards Lacombe. As Giroud, look at that, oh, hits the back of the... Oh, Polymachi's left the session. He is out of the race, out of the session. And that is a massive shame there for his race. He was running so well. But internet is everybody's worst nightmare on this game, as Ward sneaks up the inside. And obviously the AI is not going to give way towards Luke as well. Hopefully the AI doesn't really hold with Luke. He's not a ghost. He has to get through him without any contact with his teammates, and he does get through him, but obviously not the way he wants to. And now he puts him up into P6 there. What a shame for Polymachi, running such a good race as well. I would love to see what both has to put done, but he's joined back very quickly. I really hope he becomes a solid once again and gets back in this race. However, Wards has dropped 1 second away from Yavoon, but almost there because the gap is 9/10 or just hovering around, lingering around 1 second, 9/10 of a second there. So dangerously close from dropping out the DRS range. The only driver left to pit in this race is Napoli in first place there on the old hardcore power tyres. But can Polymachi get himself back in DRS range? He's 1.8 seconds away, and Mattia Manga has put himself up into P7 and ahead of the Haspan. His race gone from bad to worse, unfortunately. Here comes Justin Martin, makes contact. The Devils goes around the outside in towards the Boston chicane, chops across the front wing there of the Haas, and now he puts himself up into P8 there. The Haas lose the place left, right, and centre. He's not drawn back just yet. I really hope he does so very quickly. Lars goes through. He's up into P10. And Lars van der Linden as well has lost a whole heap of places down towards P10 as well. He was like P5 before the first round of pit stops, but he was losing pace in those mini compound tyres and dropped a long way back, unfortunately, for him.
Yeah, indeed. So very unlucky there for Polymachi with that disconnect. But Bompje, he is closing that gap towards Lucas. He's very close to the back. He's going to try and go for the move. Not yet. Just going to save that battery and go for it potentially on the next step. So Lucas in the virtual race lead as Larson, and he gets past LS in the Williams. But Naples still out there on those hards. He's been 11 laps, so he's going to be pitting in the next few laps, I reckon. And the gap is coming down rapidly between himself and Lucas with the center lap tire advantage. But Lucas's advantage has been reduced to a few tenths of a second. He runs slightly wide there out of no-lane corner as he runs onto the gravel, but it's 3/10 of a second between himself and Boompje, who is saving that battery up to around 60%, and Jeroen is closing in behind as well in the McLaren. So Lucas is going to be under a lot of pressure to maintain that second place right now in this race, which will be P1 after the kick-shower pits, but I think Boompje will be getting past on the next lap. He's just closing the gap down, has the ERS advantage, will have the slipstream on the run down towards the bus stop chicane, but will stay behind right now. If he does overtake right now, he will get overtaken back on the Camel Straight in a few moments time. We're just over the halfway point of this race, and Lucas is our virtual race leader as Napo goes on for another lap. Jeroen having a little bit of a look up the inside. That's a bit of a moment into the final chicane, as well as Polymachi on his charge back through the field gets past LS. Bit of contact between himself though and Lars van der Linden coming out of the final chicane. That's going to allow the Alpine back through round the outside. But Polymachi has the inside line going into turn 1. Is going to be able to stay in that 10th position, I think, as the Alpine still trying to go around the outside there, but he will eventually run out of room and run out of battery as well. But they're still going at it, but Polymachi is going to get that 10th position and can try to chase after the cars in front. But Boompje now, with the help of the ERS slipstream, bit of ERS as well, is going to pull alongside the Alpine, who doesn't defend, and Boompje will take that second place away from Lucas, and we'll see him now in the net race lead of this race. Lucas in second, and Jeroen will want to get past him as soon as possible, because he knows that Boompje probably is a little bit quicker than Lucas is right now and will be getting held up behind the Alpine. So he just has to find a way past as soon as possible so he can try and chase after Boompje and fight it out with him for the race win. And Morsten in a net P4 position, doing a good job right now. And look how close he gets to the back there. As Lucas really struggling through Pouon, and the gap's already 1 second towards Bones. So that is great news.
Sorry, I just witnessed contact between Luke and Ward. I think Ward's made a mistake at Pouon because Luke was literally alongside him. And he tried to overtake her on the outside towards Fanny Chicane, but he couldn't quite do it. There was contact, no major contact, nothing too significant or severe. So luckily he just got away with that. But Lucas is almost outside the DRS range. Bompia, ever since he got past him, stretched away and built that gap over a second. But back to you, Milan.
Yeah, but Lucas is closing that gap back down to just under a second, which is bad news for Jeroen, but also good news for a fact, because if he does get past Lucas on the next lap, he will be within DRS range still of Boompje. As Napple finally pulls to the pit lane, he didn't have lap 13, so RT Boompje is now in the lead of this race on track with an 8/10 gap towards Lucas, who is still staying there as Jeroen gets very close to the back of the Alpine at the entry of turn 1. And will he try and get past going on to the Camel Straight? He doesn't have too much ERS to play around with. So Nepal will come out down in last place. He has a big job to do to close that gap back down towards the top 13. But Jeroen is trying to go for it. He doesn't have any ERS to work with, but he's getting in that slipstream. But is he going to be quick enough to have a look up the inside? Not quite gets his car alongside, but he's going to send it up the inside anyway. Oh, very close for contact as Lucas still hangs it around the outside. A great move there by Jeroen on the second corner there, and he gets the job done. And Jeroen is now up into second place and still within the ERS range there of Boompje.
Oh, elbows out between those two. That was lovely side-by-side racing there between those two as well. Jeroen Visser didn't have the straight line speed nor the battery to have a straight fight with him on the straight, but look at that. The RP goes off the track there at the exit of no name. It does have a name, but I can't quite remember. Now headed down into towards Pouon we go. Wards and Luke are right at the back of him. Luke, unfortunately as well, after that first on the pit stop, got stuck behind these two because his battle was with Jeroen Visser and he couldn't clear the guys like these two as well, such as Lucas and Wards. He couldn't clear them as quickly as Jeroen could, and Boompje could too. So he's in P5. He's lost the DRS towards Lucas and Wards. His race was running so well, but unfortunately as well, by still extra got himself in a bit of traffic. Same scenario as well with Lars van der Linden back in the Austrian Grand Prix when he still had too long. I got himself in a bit of traffic too. But as you can see, Jeroen Visser, the gap is 1 second there. So Boompje is stretched away. Boompje has got some mega pace in that Red Bull to keep the McLaren driver behind him and over a second as well. So it's a straight fight between the two Dutchmen of ILT Bombers, Thomas Nijmegen versus Jeroen Visser for the lead of the Grand Prix. Jeroen is going for his third win in a row this season. ILT Boompje hasn't even stepped on the podium after losing his front wing end plate at the first race of the season in Austria due to no fault of his own. They got caught up by Papine and Jeroen making contact going down towards turn 3. In Saudi, he plainly didn't have the pace to try and contend. And here comes Ward. Look at that. Powers his way past. He's up into P3. The Haas behind as well. Being so frustrated. Down the inside he goes. But his contact inevitably almost in the spin, but keeps the car pointing in the right direction. How many times have we seen that? The door being shut in somebody's face when they try to go for a late lunge like that. It could have ended worse. He could have put in the wall. But luckily, Luke has stayed on the track. He's in P5. The gap is 1.3. He's got the better tyres against Lucas, so try and keep composed. I know he'll be very frustrated and livid under the crash helmet there of the Italian in the Haas, but he's got the pace. Try and do something about it. It looks like a certainty in this Grand Prix that one Haas, or both of them, was going to end up on the podium. But I don't think neither driver can. Well, I think Luke can, because he's still at the pace against Wards and Lucas. Wards, however, doing a mad job. I haven't really mentioned much of him as well, but he's been slowly but surely climbing up the order 2 around here at the Belgian Grand Prix. And he finished in P6 at the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix 2. So up into P3 so far. Jeroen Visser has brought the gap down under a second. So we're going to see a fight for the lead between the two Dutchmen there of Boompje and Jeroen. Can Boompje go for his first win, /first podium of the season here in F3? We're about to find out. There is still about 7 laps left to go. I've just seen Jeroen Visser have massive wheel spin out of the final corner in 5th gear as well. So he is really pushing the limits of that McLaren as well, trying to bring that gap down and put to the fight. This is going to be a mighty fight against these two. I think these two will be left alone to decide who will win around here in Belgium. Which Belgium is going to come out on top? Het is mine held van by ILT, says ILT Nick there. ILT Nick, of course, an F3 driver himself, and he races with Bodpia too. Nick is very quick along with Bodpia. Nick has scored a podium, I think, back at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix last season, but he's not here tonight because of vacation. What could he have done as well so far this season? Philip is ahead of Diogo Silva, who is dropping down like a stone for some reason there in P12. He was in F2 last season, was Diogo Silva. He had some promising pace, but on this game, unfortunately, doesn't have the pace here in F3 as well. Hasn't had any luck so far this season, has Diogo Silva, in comparison to his teammates, who has been mighty quick there in the McLaren. There are 6-7 laps left to go in the Grand Prix. The battle of the podium still could be on. That depends, though. If Luke can clear Lucas, dispatch him, and catch up towards Wards, then it's Jeroen versus Bodpia for the lead of the Grand Prix. Which one of these two Dutchmen will win here at the Belgian Grand Prix?
Jeroen seems to run a little bit higher wings, I think, than Boompje, because Boompje is running slightly faster on the straights, but Jeroen is really gaining that time in the middle sector. It was around 9/10 of a second going into the Combe chicane, and now it's around 5/10 of a second as we enter the end of this lap. So it's Boompje versus Jeroen for the race win, and Jeroen once again finds himself as a contender for the race win for the third time this season. So really close that gap down into the finals again. We go on to lap 17 of 22, so 6 laps remaining in this race, and will we see a move happening for Jeroen, or will he just wait until the final lap and then go for the move when there is nothing Boompje can do to defend? So it's going to be interesting for sure. Boompje with the DRS advantage right now, but we know Jeroen will have DRS on these laps, so that is where he gains that time back as Boompje continues to run away a little bit there by 6/7 of a second once again going on to this DRS straight. And Jeroen will close that gap back down, but won't be close enough to go for the move just yet, as Wards in P3 ahead of Lucas, and Luke is closing that gap, but he's ran out of battery to try and go for there. So Lars van Linde up the inside of the has, bit of contact between the two, as Lars van Linde forces his rival out wide, but he does get the position. The Williams is up to P5, so a bit surprised at seeing him up the inside of Luke. Was getting close towards Lucas, but then found himself having to defend against the Williams, unable to do so, and now Luke drops down to P6, so that's great news for Wards in P3, because the gap towards Lucas is 1.8 seconds and 2.5 towards Lars van Linde and Luke, and these are just fighting it out here for P4 on track. So the Sauber could potentially run away with that final spot on the podium with 5 laps to go in this race. The two Aston Martins in P7 and 8, a bit invisible in this race, I must say. Mattia Manga was quite quick in the early stages of qualifying, eventually fell away a little bit and started in the midfield just as his teammate, who started down in P14, has done quite a strong comeback to go up to P8 and is still in that fight for that P4 position, with LS in P9 as well, just inside that frame. But of course with that 10-second time penalty for speed in pit lane, his chances of finishing inside the top 9 are quite low again, as he will drop behind massively with that time penalty. We go on to lap 18 of this race. Boompje still in the lead of the race by 0.5 of a second towards Jeroen, who is closing that gap lap by lap. And Wards in P3 looking quite comfortable, as he has the pace advantage and the tire advantage over Lucas in P4 the Alpine, but Jeroen is closer than ever. He's 0.4 of a second behind, but it seems like Boompje does have the straight line speed advantage, so he builds that gap towards around 0.6 of a second again, as we now have DRS enabled on the Camel Straight. So once again, nothing Jeroen can do to go for the overtake. I think it might be going on to the final lap where we might see a change of lead potentially. So Lucas holds on to that P4 position for another lap with that massive train behind him, doing a good job so far on these older tires to stay in P4, but it's a big fight then just outside the podium positions.
It is indeed then 4 laps left to go. The time is ticking down here in Belgium. There is 4 laps and Wards 2.1 seconds away. He's bridging and building that gap ahead of Lucas, so Wards could be solidified for his first podium of the season. Well, the Kick Sauber looking really strong. There he is in the background of your screen, whilst Lars van der Linden and Luke chase down Lucas as well. It's been a shame for the Haas boys as well, because the strategy it didn't work for them. Luke was under pressure tyres, but he couldn't get through as quickly as Jeroen did. Jeroen dispatched Lucas Wards as well, but Luke didn't, and he got caught up in the midfield mayhem as well and made contact with one of them. So it's unfortunate there for Luke in P6 and Polymachi, because he lost the there as well. So both Hasses, who were looking really strong in this race, fall down into P6 and P14, and luckily only one car will score points as well in P6. But you can see Jeroen was a pile under pressure. You can see that the LT boys are in the chat at willing this driver on. A popular driver in the paddock is Jeroen Visser and LT Bompje as well. Two great drivers indeed. As we can see, the McLaren puts under pressure as well, as he has a massive wheel spin out of turn 1 there. There is 3 laps left to go. I think Jeroen Visser will be very smart and leave this until the last lap of the Grand Prix. That's when the action tends to happen. It's all about setting yourself up in the closest stage of the Grand Prix and having the best position as well towards the end of the Grand Prix as well. Lars van der Linden's 3/10 away, still can't get past Lucas, but there he is, the back with the DRS wide open. Can he get himself ahead of Lucas? There he is, the DRS there. Lars van der Linden pulls to the right side. He puts himself up into P4. Can he catch Wards with the left to go? It's going to be a bit of a tall order, a bit of a stretch there between Lars and Wards. So I think P4 could be his best result, but still a great drive from the Dutchman, considering he was struggling the first stint, struggling to hold on towards the DRS from the top 5. But currently doing a good job so far there in P4. So the main battle then to watch is between first, second, really, these two. Bob Jeroen. Like I said, Jeroen Visser going for his 3rd win in a row. He started off this championship campaign to a good start, to the start he needs to build up his level of consistency, build up the foundations for the championship as well, and piece things together. He's going for his 3rd win in a row, but the obstacle of Bob here is in the way. The little tree is in the way there in first place. Can he dispatch him? Most of you won't get that joke unless you are Dutch, of course. But the gap is 0.5 of a second there between Bob and Jeroen. I wonder if Bompje has anything to respond to, because he knows Jeroen Visser possibly is going to go for the move on the last lap of the Grand Prix. So can he counteract his attack and try and save the battery as well? Wards is there in 3rd place. The gap is 1.9 seconds there, but I don't think Wards will catch this battle unless something spectacular happens there. But you can see now, as we exit the final corner, 3 laps left to go. The time is ticking down, and it's truly a fight between these two, between Bompje and Jeroen Visser, as once again Jeroen gets super close in towards turn 1, taps the back of the Red Bull there. You can see that Jeroen Visser is carrying, I think, more downforce in comparison towards Bompje. His straight line speed hasn't really been that great so far. Evidently, when he got past the kick saber of Wards, if he loves to go. Now with the DRS wide open, Bompje is generating his battery. Is this the move? Is this the moment when Jeroen decides to strike? No, it doesn't. Is it? Yes, he is. And here he is then, as we side by side, down the inside in towards the calm. And he takes the lead of the Grand Prix. But will Jeroen live to regret that moment, because Bompje in the last few laps of the Grand Prix will have the DRS back to come back at him in lap 21 or lap 22 as well. He used a lot of battery. The speed was about 350 km an hour, and he struggled as well. Barely got past him on that straight as well. You can really see that Jeroen Visser is struggling with straight line speed.
Yeah, indeed. And does Bompje have to straight line the pace to go for the counter-attack onto that final lap? He's staying close with the McLaren, who has the advantage in the middle part of the lap, and he has taken the lead of this race. But will he regret that decision with 2 laps to go? You want to be not the leading car going onto the final lap, as he builds a little bit of a gap in the middle sector, where he has been quicker than Bompje throughout this race. Bompje will be quicker on this straight as well with that lower wings, as Wards in P3 still quite close with Lars van der Linden. He's closing that gap with 1.7 seconds. I don't think he's going to be able to do that and close the gap and overtake with just 2 laps to go. So I think Wards is looking pretty safe for that final spot at the podium, as Bompje closes the gap back down all the way to around 0.3 of a second into the braking zone of the bus stop chicane. As we go onto the penultimate lap of this race, Jeroen with a much better exit coming out of the final corner, sees him build up a gap of around 0.5 into the La Source hairpin, and now once again on the exit seems to have the better traction compared to the Red Bull driver. But the Red Bull does have the better straight line speed. So is Bompje going to try and go for the move now, or is he just going to wait until that final lap? Look how much he's closing in already, even before the DRS. So now we'll have the DRS. Neither of them have any battery in the energy tank there, and Bompje is closing that gap, but is it going to be close enough to go for the move? No, it's not. He's going to stay behind for now. He's going to think it out strategically and go for it on the final lap. He knows he can close a gap of around 0.5 of a second and potentially go for the move. So now he has that foundation to go onto the final lap, get prepared, and potentially go for the lead on lap 22 of 22. It's a fight between Jeroen and Bompje is the only man who can deny Jeroen his 3rd consecutive win of the season.
He can indeed. You can feel the tension crackling between these two. It's a high-speed game of chess at 300 kilometers an hour as well. Bompje knows what he's doing, staying behind Jeroen Visser. But can Jeroen use this middle set to try and bridge away, break away, build a few more tents in between himself and Bompia, because the middle sector, he has been absolutely mighty. The gap has gone to 8 tenths of a second, 9 tenths. Bompia makes a mistake there. That's the moment that could define the race as well. Bompia's made a mistake and somebody has gone for a spin. That's the McLaren of Diogo Silva has gone for a spin, but Bompia, the gap is 8 tenths of a second. You say puncher? You did. Puncher there from Diogo Silva. That's 13 laps on those hard compound tyres, so tyre wear is super high around here. Could we see some explosions on the final laps of the Grand Prix? Let's find out too, as we saw, who was it who had a puncher in towards Ogier Radio? I can't remember who it was. Was it Sebastian Vettel who had a puncher? Because Romain Grosjean in 2015 managed to finish in P3. Could have been, but that was a long time ago. Bompia goes a bit deeper towards turn 1. He really did not have the grip out of turn 1 there, did he? Just understeer, plain went out wide. But the gap is 8 tenths of a second then. It's coming towards in the Grand Prix. Lap 22 out of 22. The gap is 6 tenths of a second then. Let's see if Jeroen can defend against this. The DRS is wide open on the Camel Straight for the final time in this Grand Prix. Barely driver with any battery. Bompia getting closer, but it's not close enough, and I think this solidifies the win there for Jeroen, because I don't think there's no chance for Bompia to get past Jeroen Visser, considering the mighty downforce that McLaren driver has in the sector. So Jeroen Visser holds on as Napoli gets past Devils. He puts himself up into P9. You can see the tyres really going as well. Could we see some punches? Devils has took those tyres 40 laps as Diogo Silva had a puncher as well, as Devils drops backwards. As we see Napoli go up into P9 there as well. He really is struggling the hard compound tyres. Looks like he's about to get a puncher at any given moment. But I don't think there's nothing now left on the table for Bompia. And I think that's it. Then Jeroen Visser, very, very methodical, clinical in terms of his attacking. Very ferocious indeed, relentless. And he has been absolutely calculated and clinical in terms of his attacks as well and defence. He's chosen his moments at the right time, and he can make it 3 for 3. Jeroen Visser start to the campaign, to the best start of the season. He won at the Austrian Grand Prix ahead of Stefano after defending from him on the last lap of the Grand Prix. He won at the Jeddah Grand Prix by a commanding gap of 4 seconds, and this time round, here he is towards the final 2 corners. Here is the McLaren driver under massive pressure, but he sustained it really well. Jeroen Visser out of the final corner, and Jeroen Visser for the 3rd time in a row makes it a hat-trick, and he wins the Belgian Grand Prix. What a commanding drive as well. Fantastic from Jeroen Visser once again, showing a great display of driving mentally as well and strategically. And Bompia will finish in P2, first on the podium for Bompia, so he won't be too disappointed in that, although he may, hindsight's a wonderful thing, could have attacked him on lap 21, but he didn't, and that could have decide that's the fate for Bompia too. Wards finished in P3 with a fantastic podium for Kick Sauber too. Exactly what they needed. Wards has some tremendous pace, and he showed it once again in P3. A silent assassin there, I dare say, was Wards, quietly but surely, truly an outlier in the Grand Prix in P3 as Lars van der Linden finishes in P4. But Milan, what a great race here at the Belgian Grand Prix to commentate once again, and we've seen the high IQ driving from the top tier caliber driver of Jeroen Visser.
Indeed, once again an incredible victory, and executed this one to perfection as he got the overtake at the right time, and Bompia was unable to respond, and with the 1 lap tire disadvantage for the Red Bull driver. So Jeroen picks up a 3rd consecutive win as he has the perfect start to the season. 3 wins in a row in 3 races time. So at the moment nobody seems to be able to beat Jeroen, but Bompia, he got very close in this race but missed out by only half a second. And Wards, well done to him with that podium position in P3. Great drive for him, of course, from 9th on the grid. But yeah, incredible race by Jeroen once again, and has got the perfect start of the season. The start of the season he wants to now build that foundation, and he's building that momentum up to hopefully go for the title.
Indeed he is, and it is only the 3rd race of the season, but it is a short season like it was as well. In season 39, there is 12 races on the calendar season, 3 of them are down, 9 to go as well. Austria, Jeddah and Belgium have truly been some great races. Apologies about the attendance, but you can forgive that because, of course, it is the summer, the peak summer, as we see loads of people go on vacation as well, so hopefully the attendance will be better as well. Next week is break week 2, so hopefully the attendance will be better after break week, because the next race of the season is the Imola Grand Prix, truly a classic circuit as well, with proper runoff areas, gravel traps as well. But unfortunately, it is off the F1 calendar in F1 2026 as well, because Madrid is replacing it. So Imola is on the calendar this season for the next race of the season. But like I said, break week, so whatever you're doing in the next week, hopefully you all have an amazing week. Have a great weekend too, because Formula 1 is back at the Belgium Grand Prix after a 3-week absence, and in those absences, MotoGP has been on as well, and World Superbikes, with Marc Marquez dominating at the Saxon Grand Prix and also at the Czech Grand Prix too. Marc Marquez has been dominant, and he is the true champion of MotoGP by being so commanding and yeah, fantastic as well. But Milan Langer, thank you very much once again, mate, for commentating alongside me. It's always a pleasure, mate, and it is a truly wonderful journey to be on as well, to commentate with you here in PSGL. Never thought we'd make it this far.
Me neither. Actually, incredible it is, and I've enjoyed it every single minute of commentating alongside you as well. So, but what a way to start off the season. We have a break week. Next race is in Imola, and that one I will unfortunately miss, but I will be back for the British Grand Prix round 5. I am missing the Imola Grand Prix because I will be attending the Hungarian Grand Prix in real life F1. So that's why I'm missing Imola, but I will be back in 2 weeks' time for the British Grand Prix.
You're saying you're missing the Hungarian Grand Prix too, and you go to Hungary?
I'm missing the Imola race, PSGL, that's what I mean.
Oh, I see now. Yeah, I was confused. So yeah, I really hope. Yeah, of course you are, because it's the Hungarian Grand Prix on that week too. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy the Hungarian Grand Prix when you do go, and I will miss you, mate. But yeah, have a good time, mate, and I'll see you at the British GP.
Indeed, then. So yeah, what a way to start the season, and we'll be back. Jamie will be back next week or in 2 weeks' time for Imola. I'll be back in Britain. But that's it then for now for PSGL. So everyone enjoy this break week, and we will be back in 2 weeks' time to continue the season.
A word on Jeroen, a solid start to the season. 3 wins in a row, like it was with Nico Rosberg. Start 2016, just continue his championship campaign. 3 wins in a row is fantastic, Jeroen. His consistency has been built up as well. The foundations are being laid down, and he's slowly but surely burning his way up through the ladder, as he will continue to extend his championship advantage over the rest of the drivers. And a lot of the drivers here will have to do a lot of homework to try and stop the unstoppable force of Juventus. But we'll see you all in 2 weeks' time. It's goodbye for now. And once again, enjoy the Belgian Grand Prix this weekend on Sunday.